Welcome back to another episode of Advice from the Heart. My name is Garrett Sussman of iPullRank, and I am joined by the one and only Chris Hart. Thank you, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Gary. How are you doing today? I see we're kind of color coordinated, close. We got the same color frames, different color shirts.
I should have told you I was going for a black shirt, not a really dark blue shirt. But you kind of match the paint color on the back of my
I'm in there somewhere. I'm in there. It's shades of something.
shades of something. Kind of lead. That's my segue somehow into what we want to talk about today. But it's the relationships, right? The agency and the other associations, the organizations out there. There are all of these complementary businesses and opportunities, and sometimes they serendipitously appear. And you're kind of connecting the dots right now these days, Chris, aren't you?
Yeah. One of the things I'm looking at, and I've been reaching out, speaking to some, vendors that have had successful, let's call them partnership programs, right? Um, and like we just had it about, it's about, how do I set up a successful partnership program? Like, what are the things we inherently bring to the table that can be offered as value to somebody else to reciprocate with a value back? And there are some areas that are very obvious, right? We're experts at a lot of tools. We use a lot of software tools, right? But we try to stay tool agnostic for what works with the client. We don't want to force that on a client, but we do have clients that have certain needs. But some of these tools, clients have said, come to us and said, which tool that does blank would you recommend, right? And in some cases, we've created relationships with those organizations where if we bring you in and help you sell this, there's a lead relationship. Or as that relationship then builds up and they see us as solid stewards of their product in that brand relationship with our client, they've also reciprocated back in the sense of, hi, we have a client that needs blank services, we're recommending you. And then those are I would say those are almost like transactional less, right? Because for us, having a client use a software package we're wildly familiar with and very happy with exponentially accelerates the return on value for the client, right? And in a case where software vendor ABC is comfortable with recommending us to their client, we're now stewards in partnership together, right? Like everything goes from a one-way, two-way to a three-way partnership, right? Suddenly you've got a triad, right, of people working together, right? In that case.
And I agree. And the thing, especially in terms of where we're actually positioned, is because we work with enterprises, the relationship between agency, between vendor, and between these enterprise businesses are so complicated. There's so many different
Yeah.
potential like relationships that are building that it makes sense that if you have these mutually shared audiences, why not work together? Because it's such a relationship based, kind of approach anyway.
Yeah, and I think what you just touched on is like the end of the sentence 90% of people miss and in dealing with a lot of stuff, right? The relationship portion of it, right? A partnership, and a partnership of ABC whatever may fail a million times for all sorts of various reasons. But if you find the right partner, that same structure may work perfectly, right? Um, but also there's areas of creativity involved there, right? For example, and I'm not saying we're open to this, but we might be, right? Um, White labeling,
Right.
right? Now, I personally may not necessarily like white labeling as a way of doing services, right? Because I wouldn't want what because iPullRank has a certain kind of like, and the thing that's attractive to iPullRank to me is the containment of the information and what we deliver from an iPullRank standard, right? That
Yeah.
makes our contribution to that relationship unique from other agencies, right? So I wouldn't want to take that and repackage that and put a new label on that, let somebody else benefit from that. But there are agencies that do have a certain way in which they do things, and they just don't want to scale staff, or they don't, or it's in between pieces, parts, and they're trying to offload work or something like that. There are relationships where we've spent time and said, okay, how do you want to do deliverable ABC? Yeah, within our way in which we work, we can do deliverable ABC for you, so that comes to you, the receiving agency, in a way that allows you to be successful with the client you have as you've defined success, not how we've defined success, right? Which may be different for all sorts of various reasons, right? So there's opportunities with that, right? There's other opportunities, right? And I'm speaking in ways that are things that we'd be open to explore or are currently exploring, okay? Publishers, I'm talking to some publishers. Some of them have ed programs in which they're selling microsites or advertorials or things like that, but they inherently don't have the SEO scale to be able to apply SEO skill sets to all of these programs. So some of them are talking to us about potentially figuring out what a package solution would be to help them with that. Another area of interest. Well, let's just talk about that for a second. Like, and that's a thing that can go in a couple of different ways, right? You know, that then could plug you into a relationship with the advertiser. That could plug you into. I mean, there's a lot of ways that can go, but the opportunity there is to take the inherent skill set, the value the company has, the intangibles the company has, right? And leverage that through partnerships, right? To, at the end of the day, every agency is always trying to figure out how do I maximize capacity, right? Downtime is a death knell, right? Churn is a death knell, right? You want to keep capacity running, right? And develop new channels of revenue that don't force you to spend money to make money, right?
Right, exactly. Like that, and you hit on so many good points. The thing that really stands out to me is this idea of that kind of in between, because you don't want to just trade, clients. You want to have a relationship with your clients to keep them in house. You don't want to expand, so you want to find that in between. But you need to find partners who. Yeah. And you brought this up, this idea of standards, like who have the same level and reputation and standards that you have, so you feel comfortable putting your brand on maybe their service.
And sometimes we're not even like, our brand isn't on their brand, right?
Right.
But I want to make sure the deliverable they have is of the quality they need to be successful with their client, versus, hi, I need, all of the stuff that's, that has iPullRank layers in it, right? Which is different, because that's what we sell our clients, right? You can't, it's not like I'm, Costco and I'm rebranding Kirkland, right? It's just not the case, right? It's how can well-placed strategic relationships and partnerships benefit both parties, but not give away what each party has in its core that's beneficial to their own business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's a fine line, and that's why the conversations and the relationships are so important, because it's like, as you are talking to different representatives of other companies and they're talking to you, you're finding this fine line, you're feeling each other out. Like, it very much is a dance. And yet when you do get to that place where you're kind of in the same mindset between the audience, the standard of service, that you like each other, that's when you both can profit, and then a rising tide lifts all boats.
Absolutely, 100%, right? And in that case, like, let's take that partnership conversation forward with like a premier software vendor or something like that, right? Obviously, there's a product service that exists unto itself without anybody's existing help, right? It's qualified as great, right? We like it, we use it, it benefits us. They have their own clients. There's that resell. It's not reseller, but it's like lead generation program or opportunity to work together or whatever program, right? But then many of these very large software companies have to do more for certain kinds of clients than just train them on using the software. And what they're seeing is, hi, I onboard a piece of software, and then it just sits there. Nobody's using it, nobody's logging in, it's generating automated reports, there aren't actionable insights. So then what do they need to do? They have to spin up a managed service division, and then they got to train people, then they got to keep over it. Then they have to sell services to keep people hired so that now they're perpetuating the value of their software, which for somebody that knows how to use it and does the work for a client, makes it very easy. So there are relationships there too, right? Or here's another outlier relationship, right? VC companies or investment companies or brands that are looking to try to figure out acquisition or merger and acquisition targets.
Mm-hmm.
They get stuff on paperwork, but is that true value additive into what the accumulated digital marketing web equity value is, right? How did they pull that apart outside of like whatever red herring they're trying to put together or whatnot, right?
It's fine. That hits home too from some of my previous experiences where there's sometimes when they're doing the due diligence, it's almost too focused on the financials and not enough on the technology. Or that's when you would want like a partner who has the expertise to be able to vet and say, okay, this is a legit, company with a legit service versus this is all, like smoke and mirrors.
Right. Hey, this is largely propped up with blank as a result of blank, but in 2 years, you're going to need to spend blank. And think about what it would cost you to migrate from blank to blank, right? And all of that, right? And they're not telling you about all of these other things which we discovered, right? It's
the value's obvious.
Yeah. You've got and all of a sudden the generators in my neighborhood just went off, so there's power that can go out to, or either that or somebody's got a really loud lawnmower next door in the rain, which is awkward. But your point that you just made right there is that for partnership to be successful, value needs to be obvious, trust needs to be there, right? Participation in partnership it's not just we could do this, you could do that, great partnership. And yet, just like anything else, you've got to nurture them, you've got to prune them back when they get too rowdy, you've got to let them expand, maybe you need to transplant them some other way, or they may just not work, right? And you gotta be able to walk away comfortably or go all in once you see the right relationship there, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to feel and understanding where the other party is coming from, because there are some folks who are, very by the book and metrics driven, others who just want to get a feel and like who they're working with and get that sort of trust from reputation already. Either way, you need to know when to engage and when to run. And I would say from the other side of things, you do need to be open. You can't be closed-minded and only go by your own playbook. I think you're gonna miss out on opportunities.
Correct. And I think that last part is so important, because those, that unknown unknowns, like you gotta be open to allowing that to present itself.
That sounds good. It's really interesting. I want to hear, we'll have to follow up to see how some of these conversations are going. Obviously, some are behind closed doors, but I imagine if anyone is interested in kind of starting that conversation, they just reach out to you.
Absolutely. I'm open to have as many conversations as needed to see. And the more the merrier, right? Like, I don't want to define what a partnership is aside from what the benefits become from that relationship. So I don't want to be a naysayer or a yay-sayer. I just want to be like, hey, we're open for a properly defined partnership, so hit me up.
Exactly. I want to be friends with everyone. No, this has been another interesting conversation. It's like really fascinating world of these types of relationships. Thank you for chatting with me about it, Chris.
You're welcome, Garrett. Anytime, brother.
Sounds good. My name's Garrett Sussman. This was Chris Hart from iPullRank for another episode of Advice from the Heart. We'll see you soon.